Let's start the unit 2 of block first, Iliad. In this unit, we will be discussing who is actually the hero of the Iliad and the objectives. In this unit, we shall look at the essential conflict between the two egoistic leaders, that is the Agamemnon and the Achilles, and the emergence of Achilles as a Homeric hero, and the comparisons and points of contrast between Achilles and Hector as a hero of the Iliad. Shekaran, we would be sure by coming up to this portion, namak quite sure that it is Achilles who is a hero. But going through this passage after unit 2, you would be confused to declare who actually is the hero. Okay, let's go to the introduction. As we discussed earlier, the whole war was because the abduction of Helen. It was to be kept in mind that the Trojans started the war, and finally the Greeks won the war with the help of the famous wooden horse. Now, Iliad focuses on the Greek hero Achilles actually, who was responsible for the death of Hector. Agamemnon being the leader who asked breezes and went into an ego clash with Achilles. Because Agamemnon was aware of his kingship and Achilles was so much aware of his worth as a strong warrior that who was actually believed or declared as elite, which in Greek term is a most eligible one, most എന്താ പറയുക എല്ലാത്തിലും പെർഫെക്റ്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരാൾ എന്നുള്ള ആ ഒരു ഇതുവരെ കിട്ടിയതാണ്. അതായത് he is believed to be the most perfect, the Achilles. Who himself killed Hector, who is the root cause of the clash between, not the root cause, who is the leader of the war actually. So, in this whole thing, we will see Achilles as a hero. So, we shall see how Achilles is declared as a hero, the warrior hero. Achilles, a warrior, a friend, a valiant fighter, is everything is as shown here, and he sets aside his pride and hurt ego for avenging all of his friend's death. And finally is seen as a magnanimous and compassionate human being, returning Hector's body to his father. Achilles' many properties are shown here, many qualities are shown here. His ego, his anger, everything is shown here, and also he is shown as a good person while he is returning the body. Okay, but there are two main flaws. There are two main negatives in him. That is, first one is he was not ready to participate in the crucial stage of war because his ego was hurt and his self-pride. And the second one is he just prayed to his mother goddess Thetis to request Zeus to ensure a Trojan victory by making the Greeks suffer. That's also very much a negative value actually. But consider personal honor is of primer importance to be a Homeric hero. That is in that era, that is Homer എഴുതുന്ന ആ കാലഘട്ടത്തിലെ self-pride, self-esteem, അതിനൊക്കെ മെയിൻ വാല്യൂസ് ആയിരുന്നു. നമ്മുടെ ഇന്നത്തെ കാലത്തെ പോലെയല്ല. അന്നേരം moreover personal honor and individual esteem was given prime importance. So Iliad raises a question whether Achilles is a real hero or not. Okay. This whole Iliad is divided into many books, and the wrath of Achilles is justified from the book 1st to 9th because he is his self-esteem is hurt in everything that we had come across the first parts, and Greeks requested Achilles to join the war since they were losing because of Zeus' support, but he chooses to send his friend Patroclus instead of himself. He seems upset and broken with his friend's death. Now Achilles' softer side comes out. അല്ലേ, ഈ ഫ്രണ്ട് മരിച്ചപ്പോഴാണ് ഇദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ മൊത്തം ഇത് മാറുന്നത്. And then after that his grief turns to wrath. He killed a dozen of Trojans as well as Hector and attached his corpse to his chariot. But from modern view, it is a matter of serious criticism. But it being being happened in Homeric age, it was justified. War brutality was accepted as victors' right. Nartha parna pole taking women as their war booty. It was victors' right. Likewise, this one also is considered as a victor's right. He is thoroughly criticized from the book 9 to 8 A1. And there is a reconciliation in book 24 when Achilles and Priam meet to present a tender emotional scene. Because when Hector felt the Trojans, especially Priam, would have felt it like Achilles on the death of Patroclus. Patroclus എങ്ങനെയാണോ ഫീൽ ചെയ്തത് അതുതന്നെയാണ് ഇപ്പൊ നമ്മുടെ പ്രയാമിനും ഫീൽ ചെയ്തത്. So both of them could relate to each other. But when Priam comes to him to request for the dead body, then Achilles invites him for a lunch or for a supper actually. That means he shows some dignity towards Priam. He shows some respect towards Priam. This is also to be considered. And in a way, Priam is also a hero to be discussed. Where he decides to bend down being a king, being the king, not a king. He is the king of the Trojans. He is the father of Hector and Paris. Paris is the one who is the root cause of the whole war, who took away the Helen. Okay. Therefore, in a way, Priam is also a hero, where he decides to bend down to kiss the hands of the warrior Achilles. Even being the king, because of the love of his son, he stooped himself down. Both being hit by the loss of dear ones understands each other. Even though Achilles is a great hero, his status is challenged by Hector. That we will discuss now. Then Hector and Achilles, we will compare them. Initially, Hector was declared successful. But it was only in the absence of Achilles actually, because Achilles was away from the war. Hector was also a real hero because even though not happy with his brother Paris' elopement with Helen, even on being aware that his family would be suffering because if something terrible happens to him, that is his wife and son are left behind, right? He decided to fight to save his country from the Greeks. His wife Andromache and son Astyanax are seen requesting him not to get into the war in a scene early in book 6. Because his wife has lost her father and 7 brothers being killed by Achilles himself. Even being aware of all these things, comforting her by saying that their son would become the next Trojan prince and a better warrior than himself, he gets into the war. Even though Achilles don't have any wife or any much such close bondings, he have a deep relation with his mother. And also friend Patroclus. This is the only side that is shown of Achilles along with his relatives, that is family, that is towards his mother and Patroclus. This forces us to ask, who is the real hero of the Iliad? Whether it is Achilles or it is Hector. Both are true heroes, but in their attitude towards war, in their display of loyalty to their masters, that is to their country, to their kings, in their strong bondings with their families, here one gets a big negative value, that is our Achilles actually. So here wins our Hector. But still Hector is not declared. So who is the real hero of the Iliad? Is it Achilles or Hector? Even Hector is furious about his brother Paris' abduction of Helen. He couldn't. He keeps those such values aside and comes to fight for the country. But what about Achilles? Achilles is full of rage and revenge and all those negative feelings just because his ego is hurt. So, on the other hand, Hector is leaving his family, his wife, his son, his old father also. but Achilles don't have much bondings to live. This all gives more value for Hector. The only reason Hector does not give up fighting even when he knows the odds are stacked against him is because he cannot take the disgrace of being called a coward. Because when his wife was asking him to keep away from the war, he would say that he can't hear the ladies or the whole country calling him a coward. Achilles is quite unconcerned about what is said about him, or what is his king's orders or something, anything. If he want, he will do. That's his thing. And even though we consider it not much that right, but in that time it was the right. Hector wants to respect the dead. Because in the beginning of the war, he was asking Achilles that if somebody is getting killed, the other should pay respect for his dead body. The Hector is asking like that, but in the very spot itself, Achilles was saying no. He was denying that. And as it is, we know when Hector died, we couldn't expect anything more from Achilles actually. Also, but there is a positive side when shown when that Achilles was considering the scene, reconstructing the scene that Priam is requesting him to get back the dead body of Hector. Similar, he was moved when he visualizes the scene with his father Peleus would have been forced to plead with Priam had his Achilles been dead. So, battle and acts of bravery constitute major parts of this poem. The Homeric world applauds bravery in battle. That happens everything actually. Hector initially displays hesitation and nervousness at the sight of Achilles. Because Achilles was seen raging with fury and runs around the city of wars. Hector is running around the city to avoid confronting Achilles. It was only when Athena, the goddess Athena, takes the shape of Deiphobus. Deiphobus is another brother of Hector, and assures him to and makes him more powerful, makes him more minded to participate in the war actually. Though Hector finally fights valiantly till the end, his glory is muted just because of his initial fear of Achilles. Hector fights for the glory of his country, while Achilles fights for his own glory and also for his killed friend Patroclus. He shows true dedication and honors his father by fighting at the head of Priam's army, regardless of the fact that he may die leaving his son fatherless and his wife a widow. Also, but Achilles had no regard for and loyalty to the king Agamemnon or any other king. Devotion to the king is in true measure Hector's greatest attribute. His entry to the battlefield was just because of his love and his responsibility towards the king, that is his father itself. But Achilles was not like that. Achilles had no such loyalty to his king Agamemnon, as his pride and ego are far more important for him. Also, the last aspect of a Homeric hero's characteristics is that he would choose an eternal glory, either an eternal glory or a long life with glory, without that glory. Hector actually wants to be with his family without any glorious life. But Achilles does not choose that because he wanted to be known, famous for his bravery, for his courage and all those things, and he wanted a glorified life rather than a long life. So his choice is difficult, one concerning that of eternal glory through dying in the war or living a long and happy life with a family who will be the only ones to remember him. Both Hector and Achilles are aware that cowardice will give them a long life, but no one but one that is equally dishonorable. Hector accepts that the fact living with a dishonorable life would be much more miserable. In the final analysis, the question who is the hero of the Iliad is debatable actually. In my individual view, I would vote for Hector only. So, from reading the poem, who would you consider to be the real hero of the Iliad? Achilles or Hector? And you should not forget to comment that. Hector comes across just a man, God-fearing, and has more respect for divine powers. For example, even on dying, he was thanking for his life and everything. But no gods were with him. But Achilles was always covered with his mother goddess and also the gods of Zeus. But even then he is not paying much interest in them. Achilles appeals to the gods only when he needs something, like asking his mother goddess for the things. Achilles challenges the gods and angers them also. Achilles is arrogant and though well aided by gods. And as leaders and the armies, Achilles knows that he alone can bring victory to the Greeks. He has every Trojan depending on him. Hector was the only expectation, only ray of hope for the Trojans actually. Because without him, there were 3 sons. Deiphobus was dead already, and Paris had eloped with Helen, and for the old Priam, the only son left was Hector to fight for the country actually. Hector hails from the Trojan civilization that is by and large peaceful. But Achilles is from somewhat from a rage and a very much strong family, a very much strong background. Achilles often behaves like an animal, as evidenced by his treatment of Hector's body once kills him. Hector also initially fights for the body of Patroclus, but then returns it out of respect. Hector balances his warrior nature with compassion, while Achilles' frenzy as a warrior has no place for the gentler emotions. Also, the soft side of Achilles flashes for only a short time interval, while Hector is shown a well-civilized, more humane than Achilles. And so there is a quite debatable thing which would be the hero. Okay, thank you.